What I love to do is introduce the right people to the right people.
I assemble the smartest people I can think of or reach out to carry that conversation, and that's exactly what I've done today.
Please give my panel a round of applause. Welcome.
Okay, guys, Jay Martin here, CEO of Cambridge House, and I'm right now joined by Amir Adnani, the CEO of Uranium Energy Corp. Amir, how are you?
I'm good, Jay. Nice to connect with you. Talk some uranium. I like what you said before we started recording. You said, I'm out hunting for clean energy in the world. Is that what you said?
That's what I said. That's what I
know that sounded good.
When I look at UEC, that's what we see is a company hunting to fulfill, right? A demand for more energy, cheaper energy, cleaner energy. I know that's the mission.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm excited to sit down with you because this is part of my deep dive into the uranium sector. You know what we do here. When I get excited about an idea, first thing I do is shortlist the top entrepreneurs in the space that I think investors should look at. You know, I'm all about the people first, people over everything. That's my approach. And then secondly, I want to stress test the idea, right? I'm bullish on uranium, but I've got blind spots. So what am I missing in the macro picture? And so then I talk to the industry experts, and you're somebody who ticks both of those boxes. You run, Uranium Energy Corp. You're the chairman of Uranium Royalty Corp. You're also called upon by a variety of media sources from, industry like Kitco and Sprott up to Fox News to get your perspective on what's happening in the market. So I'm really glad we have the chance to sit down with you today. So I want to start with that, the uranium picture in the US, because there's been more and more conversations about the necessity of a domestic supply. How important is this? It's 20% of energy consumption, but the US relies, almost 100% exclusively on foreign uranium. That's correct?
Right now, it's 100% dependent on foreign uranium, correct?
Okay, so with Biden now in office, is there going to be increased importance on domestic supply? What are your thoughts?
I think it's a combination of a new administration with President Biden, but also how COVID and the experience we've lived through with a pandemic makes us think about supply chains. So what do I mean by that? I've been banging the drum, banging the tables since 2005 when I founded Uranium Energy about the shortage of domestic uranium in the United States to meet the needs of nuclear reactors that generate electricity. And that's what the uranium is needed for. I mean, for anyone watching this and they're wondering uranium supply demand, uranium is the easiest commodity to understand supply demand for. We need uranium for one purpose, it's the fuel for nuclear power plants to generate electricity. And so you'd look at the number of reactors and that's your demand base. And so here we were in the US, and in the US, there are just under 100 nuclear power plants operating. And that's the largest nuclear fleet anywhere in the world. And it's generating over 50% of emission-free electricity in the US. And so it's a very important part of the grid. It's green, it's baseload, it works around the clock. And we've been seeing this decline in US production for 15 years. And that was for me as an entrepreneur exciting. As an entrepreneur, I saw that and said, this has to change. There's going to have to be more domestic supplies developed at some point. The US used to lead global uranium mining in the 70s and 80s. So we've been, as a company, Uranium Energy has been looking at this issue for a long time and positioning and building for it. We became a uranium miner in the US with our Texas facilities in 2010 mining uranium.
Yeah.
Then COVID happens, okay? And when COVID happened, we started to really appreciate what it meant to have supply chains and to have local supply chains. Everything from masks to ventilators to pharmaceuticals to vaccines. We now realize and see what it means when you don't have local capabilities in your own backyard. On a day-to-day basis now, when my wife and I go looking for daily groceries and basic needs, we actually think about what does it mean if we buy and support something that's made locally versus overseas, because those things, we now appreciate how critical it is to have supplies in your own backyards. In that context, uranium today, which is still needed as the fuel for over 50% of carbon emission-free electricity in the US, 100% of those uranium requirements are being imported, and not from Canada, not from Mexico, because Canadian mines are shut down as well, but completely from overseas sources. The biggest suppliers of uranium in the world today are Kazakhstan and Russia. So you stop right there and you say, this doesn't seem right. And the Trump administration was focused on this issue, and they developed basically a proposal to create a strategic stockpile of US origin uranium, basically build strategic government inventories, something that hadn't been done since the 1950s. And what we've seen with the Biden administration is a continuation of that framework of thinking, that policy, and that commitment. So luckily, this is one of those few areas where it's completely bipartisan. There's bipartisan support in the Senate and the House for funding the creation of what is being called a U.S. uranium reserve. The Biden administration, President Biden himself, just the other day issued an executive order coming right out of the White House saying he wants to study supply chain issues in a number of key industries, including energy. And areas like uranium are very much areas that will be looked at. And it won't take a scientist to realize very quickly we consume 50 million pounds of uranium. We're the world's biggest consumer in the US, and we produce zero. And what should we do about that, guys? And so this is now, I think, what we're heading into. And when you look at also other objectives and priorities, right, about decarbonization, electrification, and those areas, also those priorities around what the Biden energy plan is and what the Biden energy focus around green energy and, again, decarbonization requires, it requires nuclear power. And that's why, again, the role that uranium can play is so critical. So long answer to your question is that's the way I see it in terms of what all those priorities, how they all kind of come together. And what we're hoping to see here in the coming weeks is more news about the timing of the implementation of the U.S. Uranium Reserve, which is going to be a 10-year program,
right,
where the U.S. government over the course of the next 10 years plans to buy $1.5 billion worth of U.S. mined uranium. This should be a great way to incentivize the development of domestic sources of uranium mining.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm with you. So there's a ton of trends occurring there. I mean, the Biden climate action plan alone is like the initial expense is $400 billion towards renewable energy. And I think that's probably just the appetizer driving this direction. So, okay, this puts it into focus why you built UEC the way you have, right? Very focused on Southwest US assets. For anybody not familiar with the story, Amir, can you give us the highlight reel?
Uranium Energy Corp is a US-based uranium-focused company. It was founded in 2005 by myself. I've been the CEO of the company since inception. I remain a top 5 shareholder of the company, and other insiders have significant skin in the game in this company. The chairman of the company, Spencer Abraham, is the former United States Energy Secretary, and so very familiar with the political and policy issues that we just touched on. Having a former energy secretary as the chairman of the board puts us in a unique league, having a voice as a company in certain circles and political circles that will matter. Scott Melby, the executive VP of our company, 36-year veteran of uranium mining. He's the current president of the Uranium Producers of America. That's our industry association. And our technical team is really comprised of individuals that have been in the uranium mining industry in the United States their entire professional careers in Corpus Christi, South Texas, and in Wyoming. These are the 2 states where the priority assets for our company are situated in. And UEC, from a property and project point of view, is very much focused on developing and advancing our hub and spoke strategy in South Texas. That this is what makes our company a past producer. We mined uranium in South Texas between 2010 and 2014. Today, we control the largest resource base of fully permitted projects that are in situ recovery amenable in the United States. And so UEC really, in a nutshell, can be summarized as being a US-focused uranium company with a history of past production. That's a proof of concept. Having a team of individuals from former energy secretaries to current presidents of our industry associations with technical capability, but most importantly, having assets that really goes with our human capital that have been fully permitted and they're ready for production and construction. That's so important because majority of the projects in the United States or the world today for uranium are not permitted for production yet. They're in the permitting process. And the process of permitting is time consuming. It involves community relation work. It involves compliance with regulatory aspects. We know directly from experience, and we've seen our own projects that are fully permitted take anywhere up to 7 or 8 years to permit from when you initiate that work. And that's something you can't buy with money. That's something that takes time and patience. So I'm proud of the fact that we've patiently built our business after 15, 16 years to be in the position today where we truly are a leader when it comes to having the capabilities to mine uranium in the United States using the most environmentally friendly methods, using the methods that are also very low cost from a capital intensity point of view. But again, with the people that really have the demonstrated track record, both to do that, but to fully understand the market and policy issues around our business as well.
Okay. Yeah. Now, I want to call out Scott Mell because I also talked to him today. I don't know if there's a smarter guy in the nuclear uranium sector. He's fascinating to talk to. I want to talk about your recovery methods. You focused on in situ rather than conventional mining. Amir, why is that?
We looked at what works in the uranium mining industry, and what seems to work in the uranium mining industry that has a track record going back to 30 years is this in situ recovery method. We have an animation video of it on our website at www.uraniumenergy.com. It's fascinating because you've interviewed, Jay, so many different commodity-focused entrepreneurs, mining executives, and this method of mining does not play a significant role in other commodities as it does in uranium. In uranium, almost 50% of global production today is using the in situ recovery method, which is basically solution mining. Conventional mining, which is basically open pit or underground mining, is very capital intensive. It's basically an earth moving exercise. You're stripping, you're excavating, you're digging, and you recover tons of ore, and you're separating minerals from rock. And you end up with waste rock and tailings ponds and all the conventional ways of mining and everything that comes with it. In situ recovery, we're not moving earth. There's no extracting, there's no stripping, there's no open pit or underground. It's targeting certain uranium deposits that can be found in shallow sandstone settings. We basically drill water wells. We inject inject water with gaseous oxygen, so a very benign solution, and we recover the uranium that's been dissolved in solution. The birthplace of this method of uranium mining is in the United States. It's in Texas and Wyoming, where our company is based out of. And the individuals we have in our company are some of the pioneers of this method of mining. Countries like Kazakhstan have used this technology to take over global leadership with uranium mining. And so when we look at production growth in the industry over the last 15 years, it's been dominated by this technology. When we look at the lowest cost ways of the mining industry, this method of mining is in the first quartile costs. And the capital requirements for this method of mining, Jay, are measured in the tens of millions of dollars, whereas in conventional mining, capital requirements are in the hundreds of millions of dollars or billions of dollars. Right. So low capital intensity or low upfront capital, lowest operating costs, and proven to be a method of mining that's gained scale and importance in the industry. Those are the reasons we're focused, in addition to the fact, most importantly, that it has such a small footprint. And so from a standpoint of winning the support of local communities and working with local communities that don't want to have some humongous thing in their backyard that you call a uranium mine, in situ recovery is benign, very small footprint, limited to just basically wells that might be sticking outside the ground. You would never know that it was there. And so these are really some of the big key advantages and why we have focused on this for since the beginning of our company has been on this process.
Okay, so when it comes to news flow, Amir, investors are going to be wondering what they should look out for. I know you guys are busy right now on the Burke Hollow project in South Texas, currently drilling, correct? Talk to us about that.
We kind of entered 2021 with excitement and conviction about where we are in the uranium price cycle. in the recognizing and basically putting our money where our mouth is, that these shortages of uranium between supply demand fundamentals and the shortages of uranium in the US, not mining any uranium while being the world's biggest consumer, that these dynamics at least gave us full conviction that we should be charging ahead, investing our capital into preparation for production. So on January 26th, we've announced the most aggressive pre-production development drilling program in the United States right now by any uranium company. We're drilling at our Burke Hollow project. We're drilling the monitor well ring that is going to make up our initial production area for that project and for the Burke Hollow project, one of our projects as part of our hub and spoke strategy in South Texas. Jay, when it comes to in-situ recovery or ISR mining, you call production a production area could be called a well field. This well field we're developing at Burke Hollow is the largest of its kind in the 45-year history of uranium mining in South Texas, one of the largest ones being developed in the United States. So we really feel that it is also putting our company very much at the forefront of being a potential supplier to the United States Uranium Reserve, this new initiative that we talked about that's going to be created, and a potential supplier to utilities. And so really it's the news flow and development that you talked about for our company, I think in 2021 is going to be full of action. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be advancing projects in preparation for a sufficient recovery in the uranium price. And the trajectory is I think, in our side. The uranium prices last year were up 20%. This year's supply demand fundamentals really are supportive of a higher uranium price. And when the uranium price gets to ultimately $45 or $50 per pound, you're not going to be able to flick a switch and say, oh, I'm going to start mining uranium. You have to lay the foundation now in terms of permitting, development work, having the people, all those key building blocks need to be in place in order to be a first mover, in order to gain market share when the commodity price is right, and to really have that winning formula. We really think it's about a long-term vision and strategy. We've been very long-term with how we've built our business up until now, but it's always staying 2 steps ahead. And the news flow so far this year is going to continue to demonstrate the leadership position that UEC, our company, has when it comes to the U.S. uranium mining business.
Okay, now for anybody who's about to take a harder look, Amir, touching the cap table for us, cash position, insider ownership, anything you want to talk about?
I think, first of all, I would encourage everyone to take a look at the information available on our website. As I mentioned already, uraniumenergy.com, number one. Number two, again, the fact that when you look at myself, when you read about our company, when you look at our background, our people have been here since the very beginning. We've got skin in the game. We're the founders of the company. We've been with the business for 15 years. And that really shows the long-term commitment that you want to see alignment with equity, with other equity investors. When you look at our largest holders, Jay, you see individuals like Rick Rule, Warren Gilman, Marion Katusa, alongside BlackRock and JP Morgan as major holders of the company, alongside management. You see names like Fidelity. We are US listed only. So we're listed on the NYSE American market. We're a US company. We don't have a Canadian listing. And that over the years has allowed us to build a very large and loyal base of shareholders who remain very involved and engaged with us. We have a strategic equity interest in a company called Uranium Royalty Corp. We own just under 20% of that company. We made that call to take that position and be a sponsor of that company a few years ago, and it's worked really well. Our equity position today there is worth over $30 million. And so when you look at our overall cash and combination of our equity account and cash on hand as of our latest financial filings, gets us close to almost $50 million of cash and equity on our balance sheet. We've got a good financial position for our company. And we're covered by, I believe, 5 analysts that have research on the company. So again, lots of good information available to anyone interested to take a look at. And again, there's a lot of numbers and details here we're trying to get through in 2 minutes. So just visit our website. It's all available in our PowerPoint presentations or information that's available out there. Hopefully I covered most of that, Jay.
Yeah. No, you did. And I appreciate it, Amir. It's been great having you back on. So thank you for your time. And I'd love to do it again soon.
Likewise, it would be great. Thank you for having me.